Okay, how's everybody doing today? My name is Kent. The channel is Bitcoin Believer, and I am live here in Southern California. It's January 9th, and it's about 3:40 in the p.m. here in San Diego. So today is the day before I think that Bitcoin will get its first ETF, Exchange Traded Fund. I almost didn't want to make a video today because it's just a weird day, as we've already seen. Bitcoin shot up. What you're looking at is a Bitcoin price, CoinGecko. Bitcoin shot way up earlier, and then look, it took this huge drop. Um, Almost like what Lenny said yesterday, we were going to have a dump. It didn't go quite as far as I think Lenny was kind of uh, anticipating, but it did take a pretty good dive. But this is typical of Bitcoin, especially in this range. You know, we're up to 48,000, 40, and this weekend we were down to 43,000. So to be at 46,000, right now is, I think, a pretty good place to be. I'm fully expecting the ETF to happen tomorrow. That's why I said in the title, it's Christmas tomorrow for Bitcoin. And this has been something that's been ongoing for a long time. And if you want to make a comment, let me know, because I'm not going to do anything too fancy in this video. We're just going to talk. I'm just going to talk because I've been watching this for a number of years. When I first came into Bitcoin, of course, you had the Winklevoss twins who wanted an ETF. I think Kathy Woods has been trying to get an ETF. A lot of people have been trying to work on an ETF for a long time. And we were always very excited about an ETF because it would bring a lot more people into the Bitcoin space. And of course, the more people you have buying Bitcoin, it's supply and demand. Eventually, it's going to drive the price higher. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of an exchange traded fund. Simply because they're very careful with Bitcoin. They don't want it to be manipulated by people like BlackRock and other people like that. So they want to keep that part of the market away. But inevitably, the way things happen, if you don't bring in enough people, it will die on the vine. I mean, it's like Bitcoin has gotten to where it's gotten because it's continued to add more and more people into the idea of owning Bitcoin. And unless you can get mainstream involved with it, it won't go very far. I mean, we've seen that with EOS, the people that are watching with EOS. We got involved with the crypto. I got involved with it by a blockchain called the EOS blockchain, which was in the early days called the Ethereum killer. And it didn't materialize as well as we wanted it to materialize because it never got used by the ordinary everyday person. It never got mass adoption. So this is the way Bitcoin is. For Bitcoin to progress and get to the point where it's something that everybody owns or people have availability to it, not just with the private wallet or just on Coinbase or other exchanges, of which people probably fear, since FTX and all the other people like Mt. Gox and all the other places where people have lost. Voyager, of which I lost money on Voyager. A lot of people lost money in these exchanges, so they don't want to play the exchange game. They don't want to custody their own Bitcoin. So here comes a very convenient way for this all to happen for them. Not only that, it makes it very easy for fund managers, people managing retirement funds, people managing people's money, to now have a secure place for them to buy cryptocurrency. So, and then it fits in with the agenda or with the aligned interests of what our economy, our digital economy, the people that control much of our financial world, they want to take this direction. They want it to go to a cryptocurrency, a digital currency, for a lot of reasons. First of all, if we go to a central bank digital currency, the Federal Reserve now can directly inject money into your digital wallet, and they can do that and influence a lot of things about the economy. They can. I got one person watching. I appreciate it. I'll give you the thumbs up for watching. Hopefully this will pick up as time goes on. I'm really kind of not doing this. Is about, I think, by 7th or 8th live that I've done here recently. I used to do the videos on the street late at night, but mainly about EOS and not about the Bitcoin. I'm trying to move more towards Bitcoin and get away from the EOS, and then also try to move more into cryptocurrency, because we are going into big time cryptocurrency. It's like I said yesterday, and I had someone make a comment on that video that I didn't play enough of the video without interrupting it. I should have not interrupted the video and play the video. It was a CNBC video it was Jay Clayton, the former Security and Exchange Commissioner. He said a lot of things on that video. I interrupted and injected what I was seeing as important. The person commented that I shouldn't have done that it may ruin the video because I injected so much information while the guy was talking, and he couldn't hear what the guy had to say uninterrupted. But unfortunately, by YouTube rules, I cannot use somebody else's video on this video unless it's a very short. And I haven't really figured out how many seconds of that video you can play. You can play a few seconds of somebody else's video, but you can't just play it uninterrupted. I can't play 10 minutes of somebody else's video, incorporate it into this video, and not have YouTube be upset by it. And I can't, it's not that I don't give them credit for it, because I even said CNBC, all this other stuff, but it's just their algorithm is the rule. So it's like I can play about 10 seconds, 5-10 seconds, and then I got to interrupt it with my own content. And if I don't interrupt it with my own content, then it looks like I'm just playing somebody else's content on my channel. And that doesn't look good to YouTube. But Jay Clayton basically said yesterday, if you want to watch the video, I think it's one after I made, well, people were making mention of it before I did, but after I made mention, it became pretty big news. Not because I made mention because I got a small channel, but because it started getting out there. And former Security and Exchange Commissioner Jay Clayton says he thinks that the ETF is going to happen. Inevitably, it will happen. I think that was his words. Also, that we're moving to a digital tokenized economy where underlying assets will be tokenized and digitized because it works with our economy. We're in a digital economy, and it just works with that kind of economy. So I'd like to continue to make videos about that because that's very interesting to me. My background is a stockbroker all the way through the 1980s. Then I took off and went up to law school for a little bit. When none of that worked out for me, and then I ended up moving to Southern California, and I've been kind of basically in business for myself for the last 20 years. But I've always been very interested in this kind of stuff. And of course, I've been watching this for a long time because it's been highly interesting to me. Because in 1992, maybe right around that time, I read a book by G. Edward Griffin. Guy's about 100 years old right now. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Because I had studied banking in college, but it didn't make any sense. Of course, I realized later that the banking that I was learning in college was just it wasn't what was really going on in the world. It was just kind of what the colleges were teaching at the time, which was nonsense. In fact, it's very interesting. My brother-in-law went to the same college I went to. I didn't know him at the time, but he had the same professors I had for money and banking classes at the university. And he said the same thing I said. He said, nobody made any sense of these classes because they didn't make any sense. It was just a lot of stuff that they wanted you to learn. They didn't really teach a lot about the Federal Reserve, although the Federal Reserve was very important at the time. And they didn't really teach you much about that stuff. They just kind of give you a lot of gobbledygook that didn't make any sense. So it was very interesting to me until I read that book. And when I read that book, I realized, man, this is really a very interesting situation that we have in this country where we have these central banks that just create money and there's really nothing behind it. And I think that's before the internet, and that's before a lot of information got released. But I remember reading that stuff way back when. Of course, what do I do to try to, create some sort of opportunity, to save in something where the money's being created basically out of thin air. And then we have an inflation rate that's and it was still inflation rate was higher then than it is now. So, maybe true inflation. I don't know what, nobody knows. The numbers are always cooked. But anyway, I started buying gold and silver and thinking that was going to be a protection from this money printing thing. So I bought gold and silver all the way through the 1990s, all the way up until the early 2000s, until I started selling gold and silver because I wanted to buy tech stocks because the 2000s were real big on the internet and tech. So I started buying a lot of tech stocks during that time. And of course, I rode that all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom. Sold the gold and silver, bought the tech stocks. And then when the crash, the bubble burst, I got out basically what I put in. Didn't really lose any money, but didn't make any money. But in the end of the game, I was just still trying to figure out an answer for what's going on in our world today, how to be able to do something that gets ahead of the inflation, but then has something about it that makes people, it's like Warren Buffett says, he doesn't like Bitcoin because it doesn't do anything. So try to find something to put your money in that's going to appreciate, it's going to be safe, and it's going to keep ahead of an inflation rate. That's a difficult trick. And so I didn't really think about this for too long until I got into the 2015, 2016. I'd kind of heard about Bitcoin because I listened to alternative radio a lot, but I didn't know how to do it because I wasn't I wasn't a technology, I wasn't a computer programmer, or I didn't do any of that kind of stuff back then anyway that could give me the skills to know how to buy Bitcoin. Then it was also a little bit scary because a lot of people were getting hacked and losing their Bitcoin. So I didn't buy Bitcoin. I just left it alone until my son found out, started studying, and then he's at university. He's at university there in Arizona State. He starts discovering Bitcoin. So he says, "Hey, Dad, you need to check this out." And then I started watching it. And of course, I saw his gains. And when I saw his gains, that hooked me. And since about 2015, 2016, of course, I've been heavily involved with Bitcoin. Watching it, buying a little bit here and there. I didn't buy a lot, but I bought a little bit. And just really kind of, I guess, what would you say? Really got not obsessed with it, but very interested in it. Not only as from the standpoint of the economy, but very interested in it as far as this technology is concerned and how this could revolutionize the world. I thought when we had the internet, that was a big paradigm shift. But now with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and the blockchain, there's a huge paradigm shift. So this is all very fascinating to me. And so I continued to study, learned all about EOS and the altcoins, learned all about Bitcoin, fascinated by this stuff, would watch endless videos about it. My son and I would go to conferences and we did a lot of study, met a lot of people in the Bitcoin space, in the EOS space, and had a good time. And like I said, I've been watching this endlessly for the last 7, 8, 9 years. And I firmly believe tomorrow we will have the ETF. I think there's too many people. Yeah, BlackRock saying it's going to happen tomorrow, which is Larry Fink. If you know anything about BlackRock, everybody knows about BlackRock because it's all over the internet. Everybody all these podcasters, Joe Rogan, all these people, they talk endlessly about BlackRock and, the massive, the massive control they have over the stock market, the S&P 500. I think they own 75% of the S&P 500. They got trillions, $12 trillion under management. They're telling you tomorrow will be the ETF. You have Jay Clayton, former Security and Exchange Commissioner, saying there's nothing left for him to do. You've got the courts. The courts have ruled in favor of basically, I went through that on a video the day before yesterday's video about the court system saying, hey, ARK, I think Kathy Woods took SEC to court, and then the U.S. Court of Appeals, D.C. Court of Appeals, highest court in the land underneath the Supreme Court of the United States of America, ruled in favor of ARK and Kathy Woods as far as that. Yes, there's nothing that says you shouldn't have an ETF. They ruled against him. So Security and Exchange Commission said, hey, we're going to abide by those rules and regulations. So we're going to go ahead and take the courts. We're not going to appeal the court ruling. We're going to go ahead and go with it. So you got the courts saying this is going to happen. You got BlackRock saying this is going to happen. And you got the former SEC commissioner saying this is going to happen. I don't see any reason why it's not going to happen. If it's not going to happen, then it will happen eventually. But now it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. And of course, there's enough people saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I feel very strongly it's going to happen tomorrow. So we got a big. You can see this. You can see this on this chart here. You got. See if you can see this on my cursor. You got this huge drop. So it was up over 40, probably getting close to 48,000, and then we dropped down to, what is it? We dropped down to around 45,000. Yeah, 45,500. I think where are we at right now? We're at. Go to the Bitcoin. I'll refresh my page. So we're at 46,600. I'm going to go out on a limb tomorrow. I'd say it's going to get close to 50, if not over 50. That would be my suggestion. That'd be my guess, in my opinion only. Don't do anything based on what I'm telling you right here, because I don't know for a fact, but I would say tomorrow morning we're going to see $50,000 Bitcoin, because it's at 48, close to that today. If the ETF gets approved tomorrow, will be 50,000 and better. So tomorrow morning will be a pretty good day for Bitcoin. I would say like Christmas morning, you're going to get up and it's going to be a big present. We're going to be seeing a huge amount of Bitcoin. And then what I understand, this is a question I had about this, is that, wow, once they approve the ETF, how long before it trades? because sometimes there's a delay in when it starts trading. They say, from everything I'm hearing, it'll be right away. So the next day, people will be offering it to their clients. So there's not much time for there to be, a cooling off period, or a time where people aren't going to be excited about Bitcoin. In fact, they'll probably be really excited if all of a sudden a massive amount of inflow come in. And I think it's already prepared to happen. They wouldn't be doing a spot ETF if they didn't have customers lined up for it. They've got customers lined up for it right now. And when those people all hit the market, you're going to see a mad buying of Bitcoin. And that could really squeeze the Bitcoin supply. It could go up massively. But then again, you always got these weird things going on, like what you have happen today with that X. I mean, I watched a video the other day about how Elon Musk really got messed up on that X deal. He didn't really want to buy it, but they forced him to buy it. Then after he bought it, he blamed the attorneys because he said the attorneys overcharged, and it's just been a massive mess. And then he tries to rebrand Twitter as X. And like I've said before, I don't understand why he did that. That it was a horrible idea, in my opinion. Simply because X just looks kind of evil. X, there's a black X. Like I said the other day when I was going through my history and I saw X all over the place, I thought it was like I'd been to a bunch of porn sites, which I knew I hadn't. But when I saw that, I said, God, it looks like I've been surfing porn. I got X all over my history of my internet searches. So I think that was a horrible idea. But anyway, supposedly today the SEC had their X page hacked. And they falsely said that Bitcoin was the ETF. Supposedly Gensler supposedly said, yeah, we've approved it. And then it came back and said, no, we didn't approve it. So there was a hack on the X social media page. Looked like it came right from the Securities and Exchange Commission. So that's really weird. I don't even know how to address that. I would say that's probably bullish in the long term, because that just shows you that there are, it's a lot going on behind the scenes right now. Usually when there's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of fire too. So something's happening. There's something getting ready to happen. It's getting ready to blow off here. And when you got weird stuff like the X account gets hacked, to me, that's just more indication that things are going to happen tomorrow. Just somebody messing with it, somebody figuring out, how to throw off the market a little bit, throw everybody off a little bit. But I believe it's going to happen tomorrow. That'd be my bet after watching this stuff for 10 years, being heavily interested in it. So, and then you got this Kramer dude. I can't stand Jim Kramer. See what he's got to say. Jim Kramer says Bitcoin is topping out. Of course he does. I'm just going to read a little bit of this because I cannot stand this guy. And the reason I cannot stand this guy is because he really came, he's a lawyer. I think he went to Harvard Law School. And then he was a hedge fund manager, made a lot of money. Somehow he's gotten this position with, who is he with? I don't even know who he's with anymore. Is it with CNBC? Is who Jim Kramer is with? I don't watch the guy. But anyway, yeah, CNBC. Former hedge fund and host of Mad Money is what they call it. And it was Mad Money. He was really over the top when he was younger. He's gotten a little bit, I haven't watched him in a long time. But boy, when he was first come out in the early 2000s, he was screaming and yelling and throwing stuff around and making big, huge presence. But he was always wrong. And it was during those tech days when you had Microsoft and you had all these tech companies, Google, and they were all making lots of money. And he was throwing things around, and he was just being over the top. Kind of being a crazy, like an influencer today that just makes the craziest videos to get views. He was trying to do that. But he's always wrong. I mean, that's the whole problem with this guy. And you can watch him all day long. You can watch all of his entertainment, but he's always wrong. And of course, he's been an anti-Bitcoiner forever. So what's he saying today? Jim Kramer says Bitcoin is topping out. Does he mean that it's topped out? Okay, let's stop fooling around. You want Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. But I think Bitcoin is topping out, said Kramer. Bitcoin added as much as 8% on Monday before giving some gains back, reaching as high as 47,100 for the first time since April 22. So yeah, this is this him on X? I don't know. Maybe I should play just a little bit of it because I don't even know. I'm not going to play him because I don't like the guy. So I'm not going to play him. I don't need to play Jim Kramer because I've never looked at him as any kind of source of information anyway. Now, Jay Clayton, I did. That's why I played his video yesterday. But Kramer, forget Kramer. He's just, I think he just steers people in the wrong direction to help, whoever he's trying to, help out in the market. I don't know. But he just doesn't seem to ever hit them. It's like, I can't remember. I mean, I remember back in the 2000s when I used to listen to the guy, and sometimes he would make a little bit of sense, and you would think, well, maybe this is a play for me. And then you watch it a month or 2 months later, and it'd be down 20%. So I've never known Jim Kramer to be very accurate as far as his predictions are concerned. So let's see if there's any other thing back in the news. I don't know. Like I say, we're just nobody's going to do too much until we know for sure what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow is a pivotal day because that's when everybody's pointing to. So tomorrow, like I say, this video to me, I didn't even know if I want to make it because it's just like, it's kind of like Christmas Eve. You don't really do too much. You just wait for Christmas the next day. All the action is tomorrow. It's not today. So tomorrow is going to be when the action is. And of course I stay up late on the West Coast, so I might see it tomorrow morning before I go to bed tonight. So hopefully if that's the case, maybe I'll make a video tonight about 5 or tomorrow morning about 5 a.m. because I usually don't sleep very well during the night. So I'll be watching this throughout the night because a lot of times, because we're 3 hours difference from the East Coast, if I'm staying up to 5 o'clock in the morning, that's 8 o'clock in the East Coast. 9 o'clock, if I stay up till 6, you can start to see what's going to happen as far as Security and Exchange Commission is concerned and whether they approve the ETF or not. But I'm hoping they approve it. I'd like to see them approve it. I'm pretty sure they will approve it. And of course, if you own a little Bitcoin, I think it's going to be a good day for you to own Bitcoin. So all that stuff is good stuff. So I don't see anybody that wants to talk with me today. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I haven't seen, outside of 2 people watching. I appreciate that. I'll just check the comments out in a few hours and see if anybody has anything to say. My prediction is 50,000 tomorrow. I think the ETF will happen. We'll see what happens. Or we could go with what one of my commenters said yesterday, Lenny G, who said we're going to have a dump. I think he called it a dump, that the price will dump. And I think he said 37,000. So either we're going to go up much, much higher, or probably going to go a lot lower if this doesn't happen, or there's some sort of hitch in the giddy up here and they don't actually approve the ETF. I don't see that happening, but I'm not an insider. I don't have billions of dollars. I'm not talking to the players in this game. I'm just a simple guy that just likes to make YouTube videos about Bitcoin, is very interested in this, and follows it closely and reads it for literally what it is. And I try not to read anything into it more than what it is. I read it very specifically and carefully. And like I say, the reason I do that is because I understand they tell you precisely what they want you to know, but you have to also know when they're trying to guide you in a direction that's a little bit of like a false narrative, or when they're actually giving you real concrete information. Like I said yesterday with Jay Clayton, I thought he was giving some pretty concrete information, even though he did have a little bit of wiggle room on what he said. But basically what he said, if you want to watch the video yesterday, it's yesterday's video. Basically what he said, it was inevitable to happen, and that we will have an ETF and everything. There's nothing left to do. And that was the most concrete part of what he said. There's nothing left for them to do. And this is a guy that's already ruled on ETFs himself, denying them. So he's in that chair that understands what's going on. And of course he has reputation on the line too. If he says it's going to happen and it doesn't happen, everybody's going to say, well, Jay Clayton's nobody to listen to. And of course, Jay Clayton, former Security and Exchange Commissioner, he's getting a lot of people that probably offer him, positions within organizations for his advice. He's a former Security and Exchange commissioner, and he's got a lot of value in the market as far as corporations wanting to hire him because of his background and because of what he knows. So when he comes out and makes a bold statement about the ETFs are going to happen, they don't happen, it hurts his reputation. It probably hurts his livelihood and his ability to create an income, because now all of a sudden the guy seems like he doesn't know anything, doesn't know what's going on. So who wants to hire Jay Clayton? He said that there was going to be an ETF and no ETF happened. Now they said there's no ETF and Jay Clayton was all wrong. So guess what? Now all of a sudden nobody wants to hire Jay Clayton because he gives you bad information. So no company is going to say, well, we're going to, and a lot of times these big companies will hire these former government officials because that's a gravy train for them. Just like, somebody that was, had a very, I'm trying to think of some of the positions I've heard, but a lot of these people that, especially people that were in the military, they'll go to work for, military contractors. So you got some company like, an aircraft company, let's just say Boeing, and you got somebody that used to work in the in the Defense Department. Wow, I'd like to hire that person when they retire, because now you're an aircraft developer, builder. You're trying to build stuff for the military, and you get the former person that was making these decisions from the inside. Put them on the payroll for about $1 million, $2 million a year, and even just as a consultant. So these former government officials, they like to make big consulting fees. They like to work for companies and probably get stock, and there are all kinds of bennies for doing that. So they're not going to be lying to you. Even if they do want to deceive you a little bit, it's going to be a little bit, probably somewhat. There's going to be some truth in what they're saying. So I thought he committed himself fairly substantially yesterday in that video. And of course, if you want to watch the video, it's posted from yesterday. So I got 26 minutes in right now. Like I say, this is the day before the storm, or the day before Christmas, however you want to think of it. The day before we have a paradigm shift in this world. I mean, it really literally is today. Tomorrow will be a milestone that probably we'll look at 10 years from now and go, this was a turning point in our world, the financial world, that literally marked a huge shift. I mean, almost the day like when Google came to market, or Microsoft or Amazon came to the market. I mean, even bigger than that, because Bitcoin is actually not only a company, Bitcoin is an entire industry or entire technology of digital tokenized assets that are going to really reorganize or, bring our entire financial system up to the modern standard of being digital and online. And this is going to be a huge day. So January 10th, 2024 could be one of the biggest days in the history of our financial, the financial world. It could be a paradigm shift that we've never seen before. So it is a big day. It's a huge day. And I don't think too many people are even aware of it right now. They will be in the future, but right now they're not. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been waiting for it for a long, long, long time. I remember the first time I got into Bitcoin, like 2015. And that's when the Winklevoss twins were trying to get it done. And I remember, I wasn't that familiar with the market back then, but I remember thinking, wow, if they get this ETF done, that's going to really help the price of Bitcoin. I remember thinking that long time ago. And of course, they got denied. And they really got mad. In fact, I'm not so sure they didn't file a few lawsuits. Maybe they did. I don't know how they did in court. I can't remember. It's that long ago. But obviously they didn't get the process done. And I think that the reason it didn't get done is because of what Jay Clayton said yesterday: wash sales, market manipulation, unknown quantities, self-custody. All that stuff had to be worked out. And of course, it's taken that much time for it to get worked out since 2014. Is that when they had the first ETF? Something like that. So for these last 7, 8, 10 years, they've been trying to work out all the issues. And I think this is the time when they've got it worked out. I think the courts are in favor of the ETF. And of course, I think the government. Now, I wrote this is pretty interesting right here, which is kind of, they say that maybe this is something to talk about for a second. I haven't read this yet, but this is something that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to bring it up. It says that Trump is not a Bitcoiner. Trump might be bad for Bitcoin. And I think that's correct. On Monday, Politico published an article making the case that a Trump victory in 2024 could turn the tide in crypto favor. See, that's what I said yesterday about the market. I'm going to take a look at this after the halving and make a decision on what to do with Bitcoin as far as what I do is Bitcoin personally, because there could be some negative stuff coming up very quickly too. And right here could be a huge negative guy. Trump is an idiot. I mean, in my opinion, he's an idiot. I mean, you can think whatever you want to think about the guy. I mean, not that he hasn't done some good stuff, because he has. And I certainly understand why people like him. But in my mind, he's an idiot. And the reason he's an idiot is because there's so many things that I don't like about Trump. He doesn't really have very much, you know, I mean, come on. The guy didn't have to be indicted 25 times or how many ever times he's been indicted. I mean, he could have simply given back the documents he took from the White House. It would have been an easy fix. But instead, he had to drag this through in court. And he's wasting a lot of people's time. He's creating a lot of problems, not only for himself, but the rest of the people that are in the country. I'm not a big Trump fan, as you can tell. I'm not a big Biden fan either, so don't put me on either side of that fence. But I just don't think the guy's up to speed on Bitcoin. I don't think he's good for Bitcoin. I don't think he understands Bitcoin. I think he's very narcissistic, and he basically gets his ideas about stuff, and you're going to have a hard time changing his mind. And he's very anti-Bitcoin because I've heard him talk before. So yeah, I don't think this is a good deal for Bitcoin. Oh, so I got somebody talking to me here. Viz says, do you know Bullish? Okay. Did you know Bullish bought Bitcoin? No, I didn't. I don't even know who Bullish is. Or CoinDesk. I'm sorry. I can't read these because it's kind of the background. So, no, I didn't. I didn't understand. I don't know anything about Bullish. I don't understand about CoinDesk. I like CoinDesk. I look at CoinDesk all the time. So I didn't know Bullish bought him. I don't know who the owners are of either one of those companies. So, I'm just reading this stuff off the internet like everybody else. Am I reading this from CoinDesk right now? I think so, about Trump. Let me go back to it. CoinGecko. I want to go to Bitcoin. But I was talking about Trump because I think Trump is negative for Bitcoin right here. Yeah, it's CoinDesk. Yeah, so I don't know the political leanings of either one of those organizations, Bullish or CoinDesk. I don't know if they're pro-Trump or against Trump, but I'll read this real quick because it is interesting. On Monday, Politico published an article making the case that Trump, victory 2024, turned the tide in cryptos what's it say? Turns the tide in crypto's favor. It would mark a major shift from President Joe Biden, whose administrator and regulators are constantly taking a skeptical, well, this is saying the other thing, what I'm saying. I was saying Trump was anti-Bitcoin. Sounds like Trump is a Bitcoiner. No, a Trump victory might be bad for, well, it seems like it's opposite of what the title says. Anymore, people create these titles that are such clickbait, you have to really read it closely to figure out what they're saying. A responsible article. Okay, now it says a response to Politico's article predicting good times if the ex-president wins. So I guess basically they're saying it's good for Bitcoin. Quoting power players, including House Majority Whip Tom Emmer and former controller currency, they make the case the anti-establishment president, Donald Trump, if he wins, would likely enact policies and strip down regulations to benefit crypto. So now they're saying, I always thought Trump was anti-Bitcoin. Let's just Google it. See what AI says about Trump and Bitcoin. Because he's talked in the past, he didn't like it. Okay, now here they say CoinDesk says no, a Trump victory might be bad for crypto. Who knows? This is crazy. I don't know. With Donald Trump, you never know. I know he's talked anti-Bitcoin a lot too. So if he's for Bitcoin or anti-Bitcoin, I have no idea based on what I'm reading right here. I would tend to believe he's anti-Bitcoin based from what I hear, from what I remember from the past on him. So I don't know. But like I say, my timeline is ETF happens tomorrow. Halving comes up in April. Election for the presidency is in November. President doesn't actually take office till January 2025. So we got about a year here where I think things could be very good for Bitcoin. And that's my timeline. After that, I don't know. I'm not going anywhere with Bitcoin after that point. Because once the retail investors start buying Bitcoin, there's going to be a lot less volatility in the Bitcoin. What's been fun about Bitcoin right now is you've had what you've had the last month. I mean, you put a little bit of money in Bitcoin and you've had extremely bullish extreme. I mean, a month ago, in November, Bitcoin was around $30,000. End of October, the latter part of October, we're at 47,000 right now. 46,000, 47, 48,000. That's like $17,000, $18,000 a Bitcoin. That's a huge run up just since like in the last few months. And I think once retail investors come in and you got the ETFs, you'll have more stability in the market because there'll be bigger players. You'll have funds that will own a lot of Bitcoin. So you're not going to have these massive swings. That's what's been kind of fun about Bitcoin. And the fact that and it's been very predictable. I think Bitcoin is like the investor's best friend, because Bitcoin is, if you just spend, for the amount of time you spend in Bitcoin, what you get back is really, it's a good investment of your time. Because if you just study Bitcoin a little bit, you can do very well with it. Because there's a lot of things that are very predictable in Bitcoin. The halving is very predictable. I've gone back and made videos about that. That it improves in value exponentially in each halving, simply because the amount of Bitcoin that's being created is less, because the halving takes away half the miners' income from the Bitcoin they mine. So that every time just makes the Bitcoin price goes up. So if you're just an average everyday person that doesn't want to do a lot of research and watch millions of videos and read all kinds of information on, and nobody reads, I think, out of books anymore, but because books are actually that's old information too. But for the time you invest in Bitcoin, you can do fairly well if you just play your cards right. So Viz sent me something. Dan Lerer already. Let's see what the Dan Lerer is predicting. Dan Lerer already predicted this a year ago. What did Dan Lerer predict a year ago? Oh, that we'd have the ETF? He may have. I mean, I made a video the other day about EOS, my feelings about Dan Lerer. So if you want to watch that, you can go ahead and watch that. But I don't even know what Dan Lerer's doing today. Let me take a look at this. I mean, we met Dan Lerer up at the hackathon. I made a video with him. In fact, it's funny because his wife was standing right there. We didn't know it was his wife. We thought it was his assistant. Not exactly a looker, that's for sure. Okay, let's see. What's Dan Lerer doing right now? Is he still making stuff with... he's with Buywire. Those guys. Well, that was 2022. Let me see what the... usually they have something like... If you do this in Google, they'll give you back some AI information today. Let me see what Bytemaster. I remember that. So I don't know what Lerner's doing today. Maybe he can help me out. I mean, I don't know if he's still pushing. Oh, is Brandon Bloomer, the founder, CEO, developer, US developer, one has bought 9.3% of Silvergate. So they got some deal going on. He's always going to have some deal going on. Yeah, all these are old. I don't know what he's doing. He's from Blacksburg, Virginia. I remember that. So it doesn't sound like he's probably doing a lot. This is Coin Bureau. This can't be right. They got the dates wrong. Or hold on. March. Okay. Okay, this is old. This is 29th to 23, so this is almost a year old. So yeah, this is old stuff. So I don't think he's doing much right now. I don't know what he's doing. He's probably got lots of Bitcoin. He's just sitting around watching the Bitcoin price go up. That's probably what he's doing. So if you know what he's doing, let me know. I haven't followed the guy for a long time. So what did what did Dan Lerer predict this year? ETF or in price? What is it that he's predicted? I know he's kind of, Dan Lerer, from my memory, was not that, he always thought Bitcoin was antiquated because it was proof of work and only does a few transactions per second. So he was always like, Bitcoin just isn't going to cut it. In fact, that was the whole thing about him and Satoshi. That when they were back on when the cypherpunks and they were on the message boards, and he was telling Satoshi, proof of work is not going to be viable in our world because it just can't process that many transactions. And Satoshi came back and said, I'm not going to argue this with you. If you don't understand it, you don't understand it. I don't have time to mess with you. So that's kind of ended the conversation between the two of them. That was my understanding. But yeah, the only time Dan Lerer becomes a big Bitcoiner is when he gets a lot of money from EOS and then he decides to put it someplace. And of course, what does he buy? I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I know Block One bought a lot of Bitcoin. I don't know how much of that he had an interest in, but he got a lot of Block One bought a bunch of Bitcoin. And, of course, Dan Lerer used to work for Block One. So I don't know if he had, he had a part of Block One as far as the amount that was divided up or how that worked. But I think if you knew the truth about Dan Lerer, he probably owns a lot of Block One. I mean, a lot of Bitcoin. So anyway, how many minutes have I been on now? 40 minutes. So I better start signing off here pretty quick. So I got a couple people to comment, a couple people to watch. So I really appreciate it. We'll just see tomorrow what happens. Of course, I'll hopefully make a video about it, and hopefully it'll be a good one. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.